I'm not a fan of any Abrahamic religions. The notion that we should follow a set of oppressive man-made rules or be judged by a narcissistic creator just doesn't sit well with me. I don't mind pagan or Wiccan beliefs. I don't mind Buddhism. But I'm just not a fan of the notion of a judgmental Abrahamic God. Christianity, in my opinion, should be the least problematic out of the popular Abrahamic religions, because it makes the strict rules of the Old Testament not nearly as important, and in some cases not even really valid at all. It has the most possibilities of being non-judgmental, at least if people are following Jesus' teachings. Sure, the Jesus story really makes no sense. The notion that a God-approved human sacrifice absolves people of all their sins, at least if they believe the right things, is quite silly to me. I'll always think of this clip from Doug Stanhope.
I don't even understand the connection. Would die for your sins. He died for your sins. Well, how does one affect the other? I hit myself in the foot with a shovel for your mortgage.
Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't Christians who pick and choose parts of the Old Testament to judge people with, like those who rail against gay people as if they're just as bad as murderers, but don't rail against people for wearing mixed fibers or eating shellfish, like the same chapters in the Old Testament says are sins. The more that people follow Jesus' teachings and not the rules of the Old Testament, the more open-minded and tolerant they are. If someone calls themselves a Christian, but only pay attention to parts of the Old Testament, I don't really consider them a Christian. If Jesus' teachings aren't really that important to you, why call yourself a Christian? Unfortunately, there are a lot of fake Christians out there in Western countries. Judaism doesn't recognize the New Testament, so it's all about the rules and concepts from the Old Testament, or what they call the Torah. But there's also the Talmud, which contains even more restrictions based on Jewish law. Oddly enough, Jewish people don't go around calling people sinners for not following the Torah. They instead usually live their lives according to the principles of their religion, and let others live their lives how they choose, at least when they're in Western countries. The Israel-Gaza situation, and not so much. Islam, on the other hand, is the most judgmental and barbaric of the popular Abrahamic faiths. Prophet Muhammad was a barbaric piece of shit. There's nothing to look up to him for. While Jesus preached tolerance, Muhammad and the Quran represent oppression of women, oppression of gay people, oppression of non-believers, oppression of a whole bunch of people. Thankfully, when Muslims are in Western countries, they usually don't lash out or try to force people to conform to their beliefs. But in Islamic countries that implement Sharia, the people are locked down. Apostasy is illegal in several Islamic countries and is punishable by death. There's no Jewish or Christian equivalent to this. Israel doesn't stone people to death, but they are committing a genocide against the Palestinians. Claiming that Islam is a religion of peace is ridiculous. Sure, when someone submits to a religion, they can have some sort of a sense of peace. But that's not the same thing as claiming that a religion is peaceful in nature. If you think death is an appropriate penalty for harmless things, but, they go against a religion, you're certainly not a peace-loving hippie, that's for sure. Just saying.